harsh reality of why you cannot dream of a perfect marriage. Hi friends, welcome to Marriage Realities, a comprehensive relationship channel. Today's video is all about why you cannot expect your marriage to be as perfect and idealistic as you dreamed it to be. Yes, you have dreamy vision about your marriage where nothing can go wrong between you. You also have infinite dreams about your spouse. When in love, you're blissful that your married life will always be perfect and heavenly. You're also definite that the excitement of your love days will continue throughout your relationship. The initial days of your married life confirms that you're right in feeling idealistic about your spouse. The physical proximity of your spouse makes you feel heady with excitement. Both whisper lovey-dovey words to each other. You and your spouse live in a world of your own. You're overwhelmed with love that you're the luckiest person in the world to have married such a lovely person. I love my spouse ardently. Nothing can come between our love and we'll live happily ever after. Almost all couples have such idealistic dreams when they marry. But living happily ever after exists only in fairy tales, not in reality. Your dreams of a perfect marriage are shattered within a few months of living with your spouse. After the initial thrill of your honeymoon days are over, your married life reverts to the mundane and the routine. You're shocked that your marriage is not as heavenly as you dreamed it to be. You find your married life shockingly different from your love days. You had expected your married life to be very loving and very breezy. But in reality, everything about your relationship is staid and mundane. You find it near impossible to withstand the differences between your expectations of a rosy marriage and the practical reality of an ordinary married life you are now living. You have a lot of issues with your spouse which you never thought would exist between you. You find it near impossible to adjust and tolerate your spouse when he or she shows his or her completely negative side after your marriage. You see many differences in the behavior of your spouse after your marriage. Your spouse was liberal in spending for you during your love days. But after marriage, your spouse thinks twice before spending for you. You easily made up with each other when there were arguments between you before your marriage. But after marriage, your arguments turn into huge bitter fights between you. You always wanted to be with your spouse before your marriage, but after marriage, you spend your time alone doing your own thing. You talked about everything under the sky before your marriage. You search for topics to talk with your spouse after your marriage. After a few years of marriage, you and your spouse no longer want to adjust with each other but want to fight it out. Both demonstrated the love you had for each other openly before your marriage. Both scarcely make each other feel loved after your marriage. Such changes, such differences in your relationship. You feel as though you have married a stranger, that much different is your spouse after marriage. Emotionally shattered when almost all of your expectations are dashed to the ground. You're wrong in feeling disappointed about your marriage. You should understand the harsh fact that you have to live with reality. Your spouse cannot be the superhuman being you imagined him or her to be. Because in reality, your dreamy expectations about your spouse is often impractical and unreasonable. Your great expectations only make you have great disappointments about your spouse, often unwanted and unnecessary. Compare your love days with that of your married days and feel completely lost that your relationship is devoid of love and care. Do not worry. Your spouse does love you, but your spouse will be different from what you expected him or her to be. Your spouse will do many things to make you feel irritable and annoyed. Understand the simple fact that you too do many things that make your spouse irritable and annoyed. Both throw away the cloak of goodness you displayed before your marriage and show your true self, which is very contrasting and different to the one you displayed when you loved your spouse. Instead of love and fun you enjoyed during your love days, your relationship now struggles with tons of resentment and grudge against each other. So, become grounded about what you can expect in your relationship. You should balance between enjoying the perfections of your spouse and at the same time tolerating his or her imperfections. You should first analyze yourself. Are you as perfect as your spouse dreamed you to be? Are you everything your spouse hoped you to be? You're not. You have your own share of imperfections, don't you? Then how can you expect your spouse to be a dream husband or wife? Do the imperfections of your spouse make him or her any lesser? No, it does not. It just shows that your spouse is very human and very real. You feel good when your spouse behaves perfectly. Likewise, you should know to overlook his or her imperfections also. This simple trick will do away with many resentments you feel in your married life. Understand the simple fact that there are no perfect couples anywhere in this world. You can only find couples who make perfect adjustments towards the imperfections of each other. When you do away with your idealistic dreams about your spouse, you can enjoy incredible happiness in your relationship. Focus your concentration on the positive side of your spouse and not on his or her negative side. Do not always be accusing your spouse. Be forgiving towards the minor faults of your spouse. Do not demean your spouse. Instead, compliment and appreciate your spouse for what he or she is. Forgo your dreamy vision of your marriage where nothing can go wrong. It can never happen. You should also realize that love alone cannot constitute your relationship. There will be issues and problems between you and your spouse. You'll be loaded with tons of responsibilities and commitments. The carefree days you enjoyed before your marriage will be gone forever. You'll be taken aback when there's no respite from the plethora of problems that plague your married life. These are all part and parcel of any marriage. Do not feel depressed that your dreams about your spouse have crumbled to dust. You'll find your married life tough to live through if you do so. Your disappointments do not mean that you cannot enjoy true happiness in your married life. Understand that nothing is lost in your marriage. The gravest mistake you make is to think that your marriage will work by itself, because it will not. Married life is a 24/7 work. Your marriage is not a utopian world. It is a responsible world. You must deal with varying problems and relationship issues which make your married life tough and hard. Unless you learn the trick of understanding that your spouse will never be the person you dreamed of, you'll find your married life tough and emotionally draining. So, you should be practical to accept your spouse as he or she is. You should be loving enough to overlook the faults of your spouse. You should be caring enough to support your spouse in all ups and downs of life. You have all the rights to have dreams about a happy marriage. But you should also be realistic to understand that all your dreams about your spouse will not come true. Did this video make you understand that you cannot dream of a perfect marriage or a perfect spouse? Marriage Realities will have many such relationship eye-openers. Subscribe to my channel to understand your marriage in a new light. Press the bell icon for updates about my latest relationship videos. Make love forever until death do us part, your relationship goal.